He's a Dutch artist, sculptor, painter, photographer and writer. His name? Pieter Kooistra, age 73. He is known for the fact that he doesn't just have ideas, he also puts them into practice. It was he who invented the art lending system, a revolutionary system from which the artist and the public both profit. Although at first nobody believed in it, it has since been implemented in many countries around the world. This work of art by Kooistra is called Evoluan, an object in motion which he sees as a symbol of society's constant change and awareness. Once more, Kooistra has developed a new brilliant idea, an economic world plan that, added to the existing economy, would guarantee an extra income to every citizen in the world. This new plan can only lead to win-win situations. The poor will primarily improve in material ways, the rich in immaterial ways, leading to social, cultural and spiritual development. This economic world plan is the subject of Kooistra's book, The Ideal Self-Interest, which was published in 1993.
In this book, he paints the contours of a new economic world plan mediated by the UN. Experts maintain that this plan deserves international attention.
Laat ik het zo uitdrukken dat ik zijn denkbeelden heb vergeleken met de mijne en gevonden op hoeveel punten wij het met elkaar eens waren. Dat waren er veel en ik sta dus zeer positief tegenover dat boek.
I read the plan with great interest and it occurred to me that this could represent an extraordinary opportunity and a window of hope for the world's poorest population, of which there are more than 1.3 billion people living at the edge of survival.
Het plan van het UNO-basisinkomen voor iedereen heeft een paar hele aantrekkelijke kanten. De kern ervan is dat er een garantie komt voor inkomen voor iedere wereldburger. En dat heeft als enorm voordeel dat de angst waardoor miljarden mensen worden gedreven, dat je die elimineert. Ik denk dat dat de grootste verdienste kan zijn van een basisinkomen op wereldschaal.
Als dat op wereldniveau kan gebeuren, dan zou ik zeggen, dit is een geweldige stap voorwaarts. En dat zou de mensen beschermen tegen armoede en ellende. En het is niet voor niks dat al in de jaren 45 een man als Roosevelt heeft gezegd dat er ook tot de rechten van een mens behoort het vrij zijn van vrees en van gebrek. En ik denk dat dit vrij zijn van gebrek dat een heel belangrijke voorwaarde is, ook voor het genieten van andere rechten.
Het basisinkomen voor iedereen, dat is een essentiële voorwaarde om te komen tot een stabiele wereldeconomie. Je moet je voorstellen, zolang de mensen geen basisinkomen hebben, zal er angst zijn. Iedereen zal bevreesd zijn voor de volgende fase waarin hij geen inkomen heeft, geen eten en wat dan ook. Een basisinkomen is de volgende fase die we nodig hebben na alle fasen van eerst de charitas, de liefdadigheid. Daarna in Nederland het systeem van de sociale zekerheid, trekken van het race. En de volgende logische fase zal zijn het basisinkomen. En niet alleen het basisinkomen voor Nederlanders of Europeanen, maar wereldwijd. Dat is een essentiële voorwaarde om angst weg te nemen en om te zorgen voor een evenredige verdeling van goederen in de wereld.
Would it be possible to have a basic income for everyone, a global democracy, an ecologically sound system that could lead us to economic unity and create the development of the human species and the environment? A system which moves us away from our present self-centered economy to one that serves us all? There are new situations that confront us with problems and challenges for which we can no longer find the solutions in the existing frame of reference.
This is the Peace Palace in The Hague, representing one of the earliest efforts to unite nations in the common goal of maintaining peace. It was built as a temple of peace in which disputes between states could be settled amicably. The subsequent devastation brought about by 2 world wars made us realize that arbitrators and judges alone cannot always prevent war. So we established the United Nations to maintain peace and security and to protect human rights. Freedom from poverty and need is part of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. For that reason, the UN is an indispensable partner in this global war on poverty. We are confronted with a collective problem which calls for a radically new orientation.
Such a new orientation is found in this world plan, a UN economy, or better still, a consciousness-enhancing economic system which finances itself, knows no taxes, interest, or inflation, and guarantees the same supplementary income and rights to all people. A few main points: a UN income for all people, a global transformation, a better world driven by self-interest, utopia. Let's just for a moment suspend disbelief and have a closer look.
We, all the households, let's say, need food, consumer goods, and services. For the sake of convenience, we will call the supplier of these things the producers. The goods and services are supplied in return for payment. The price of the food, goods, and services, which we refer to, in short, as goods, is partly determined by the interplay of supply and demand. There is a market, the market for consumer spending. So there is a flow of goods in one direction and a flow of means of payment, usually money, in the opposite direction. In the same way, there is also a market for means of production, in which labor and knowledge are supplied from the households to make the production possible, or, in other words, production factors. In return, the labor and knowledge supplied are paid for, mostly in the form of wages or salary. The circle is now complete. So we have a flow of goods or production factors moving in one direction and a flow of money moving in the opposite direction. We should keep in mind that the money in the system is the equivalent of the goods and services produced. So money only has a value if it is balanced by production. This means that in a healthy economy there should be a balance between money and production. And that is how our current economy basically works. A balance between money and production also means that extra money or purchasing power should lead to extra production. This principle underlies the extra United Nations income. This is a basic income for everyone, which is only made available, and this is the important point, in order to be allocated, not therefore in order to be saved or in order to be used to pay off debts. First, an inventory is drawn up of how the families will allocate their extra UN income. For this, the information superhighway is essential. Next, an investigation is carried out as to which producers can supply these goods in an ecologically sound way and at what price. Because of guaranteed sales and payment in advance, the producers don't have to approach their banks for financing, so they don't have to make allowances for bank interest in the cost price. But the bank is involved in a different way. The extra UN income is reserved for the households as a deposit on a transfer account, in UN dollars, for example, and subsequently made available to the producers. Meanwhile, these producers have started their production on the basis of the guaranteed orders. With the guarantee of the central bank, the local bank exchanges the UN dollars for local currency. For this extra production, a demand has now arisen for extra production factors and an extra balancing flow of money. In the meantime, the ordered goods or services are being supplied. The extra flow of money finds its way into the market for consumer spending. In this way, production is stimulated. The total economy has increased in a balanced way.
In this proposal, nothing is produced without prior agreement on a safe, efficient, and ecologically sound production method. That's the secret of an economy that is no longer the instrument of power and money. You should look at this UN economy as a kind of supplementary economy, which will eventually balance man and nature. You see, this black coffee gives me stomach aches. Now compare this black coffee to the present world economy, which gives all of us so many problems. When I add this white milk, I can stomach it. Compare this white milk to the supplementary, ecologically sound, more humane UN economy. Imagine, every year a dash of the safe UN economy is added to the unsafe world economy. Gradually, the old economy will receive more and more impulses from the new economy because the same producers and the same consumers participate in both economic systems. And one day an equilibrium will be reached. Schematically, you could show it like this.
Consumers want to spend their UN credit on, let's say, a new bicycle. The bicycle manufacturer has extra capacity to supply these bikes. In this way, UN currency goes from consumer to manufacturer. The manufacturer hands over all the UN currency he receives to the local bank, which is also a branch of the UN bank. The counter value of that currency is credited to the account of the manufacturer in his own monetary unit. With this money, he can pay the supplier and his staff. These people can spend their money on goods in the existing economy. In this way, the whole economy grows.
This plan will generate an estimated 70 to 100 million jobs. The poor become richer without the rich becoming poorer. That money doesn't come out of your own pocket, as is the case with aid to third world countries or charity. Neither existence itself nor the development of one's personality should depend on generosity. The healthy foundation of this additional economy is based upon the absolute equilibrium between consumer and producer.
Let's once again have a look at the UN economy. Everyone receives a line of credit to the amount of $250 UN through an interest-free transfer account. This is pure purchasing power, by means of which goods and services can be bought. The amount, $250 UN, is based on calculations of the development of the present world economy, the increase in the population, and the related growth of world trade. The accounts are administered by the bank, in cooperation with the UN Bank, and are used in order to pay the goods ordered by the consumers. Making use of the information superhighway by way of the UN channels, it is possible to synchronize the additional supply and demand. And because of the direct relationship between supply and demand, there can be no inflation. The extra UN production can be taken care of by approximately 3% of the world's workforce. They can spend their money in the consumer market. So the whole economy grows in a well-balanced way. The implementation of this UN economy will lead to a considerable improvement of the standard of living of the poorest among us. Because of this extra income, their purchasing power will be enormously increased. The poorer you are, the more your purchasing power will grow. Based on the situation of the 90s in a poor country like, for example, Mozambique, the increase of the purchasing power of 250 of the so-called UN dollars will be more than 300%. And in Switzerland, a rich country, this increase will only be a fraction of 1%.
In this system, it will no longer be necessary for an entrepreneur to spend a lot on storage and complicated administrative operations. He or she has no surplus stock and doesn't have to take inflation nor interest into account because every product is made on request and paid for in advance. Moreover, his or her taxes and possible import duties are calculated beforehand and included in the sales price. All these cost-saving measures will result in a decrease in production costs, which could total as much as 30%. These savings will benefit quality and environmental protection in the production process. In this system, production will never be either too large or too small, since it is a closed circuit. Through regional UN workers, social market researchers, we can take stock of our wishes, and these can be geared to an ecologically sound production of goods and services. This new system will mean a tremendous boon for bankers, since they will be paid to administer all UN credits in close relationship with the central UN bank, those 6 billion times $250 per year. At the end of each year, all the unused credit will be repaid to the UN Central Bank, as it cannot be saved or used for speculation. Therefore, it will not be necessary to create a new financial infrastructure to administer this new economic system. The UN Bank will come to an arrangement and pay the banking world to perform financial services to make this economy run. Among other things, they will check UN dollar credit accounts, comparable to the present-day checks on overdrafts. Compared to the average, slight growth of the present world economy, the UN economy could yield as much purchasing power after about 15 to 20 years as the existing economy does in about 20 years. So we now know that the extra purchasing power in circulation through these UN dollar transfer accounts cannot cause any inflation, because it has been predetermined how large the production of goods and services should be, and because all payments are made automatically and electronically. There are, of course, no limitations on spending our present-day income. Well, what do you think? Because all of us have a stake in it, and we will not only keep our present income but receive an increase as well, it is time to take a serious look at this plan. Of course, a number of logistic questions remain as far as the organization of it all is concerned, such as how do you instruct all the UN workers needed to list our requests? And how do you keep the system free from corruption, speculation, fraud, and the like? In his book, Kooistra gives plausible answers. But first, it is essential for the United Nations to seriously commit themselves to this plan. Political consensus will be necessary in order to give this UN economy a chance to succeed. The possibility of a political consensus will be enhanced by the fact that all people and all countries will have an equal stake in it, and that the United Nations will become more independent. Our self-interest is really at stake, because we only have one Earth and we depend on her for our survival. We cannot continue in the same way as we have up until now. Let's listen to what experts have to say about this UN economy.
Wat je ook in de praktijk mag zeggen van de Verenigde Naties, al die blauwdrukken voor een nieuwe wereldorde, ook waaraan Kooistra denkt, die hebben een of andere raakvlakken bij de Verenigde Naties. En het is het enige instrument, als we die kant op gaan, die zeg maar operationeel kan worden gemaakt. En dan denk ik ook dat Kooistra niet alleen denkt aan de Verenigde Naties in zijn huidige vorm, maar ook in een vernieuwende vorm, waarin dus veel meer medewerkers komen. Allemaal VN-mensen in feite. Hij wil dus een heel koor van VN-mensen recruteren. En ik denk ook, als we dat zien, dat er in beginsel die bereidheid bestaat bij vele mensen. Niet bij iedereen, maar bereidheid bij groepen mensen om hier aan mee te werken. En dan denk ik dat het heel juist is dat hij aansluiting zoekt bij de Verenigde Naties, misschien in een nieuwe aangepaste vorm.
Dat is een langzaam proces. Daar zullen we nog enkele tientallen jaren mee bezig zijn. En in die tijd zullen we zien dat de oude economie zijn voorwaarden en zijn voordelen verliest ten bate van een duurzame economie. Daar geloof ik zeer in, want het is in het belang van iedereen.
Dat is misschien een van de perspectieven van de rechten van de mens. Dat we nu niet alleen denken aan de rechten van de mensen die nu op deze planeet leven, maar ook dat we een leefbare samenleving houden voor de toekomst, voor generaties die na ons komen. Dat vereist natuurlijk een zekere zelfbeheersing, dat vereist inzicht en kennis van wat we kunnen en niet kunnen en mogen doen. En daarom gaat er ook een heel sterke ethische boodschap uit van dit boek.
Men zou natuurlijk open moeten staan voor zijn argumenten. En dan geloof ik dat als men er werkelijk goed over nadenkt, dat men dan tot soortgelijke conclusies komt.
We zijn al jaren bezig met het milieu te integreren en duurzaamheid te integreren in de economie. En als je terugkijkt, 25 jaar, dan hebben we zeer veel bereikt. Het is dus niet zo dat we ongeduldig moeten zijn en zeggen het moet de komende 10 jaar worden gerealiseerd. We beginnen aan een nieuw millennium. En het is zeker dat in dat nieuwe millennium op een of andere manier een duurzame economie gerealiseerd zal worden. En daar hebben we enkele tientallen jaren voor om dat voor elkaar te krijgen.
By representing the world's women's and children's interests and their rights, we are concerned about reaching the United Nations Development Objectives by the year 2000, which were promised by the international community. 1996 was designated by the United Nations as the International Year for the Eradication of Poverty. This would provide an excellent opportunity to launch such a World Economic Plan. And why not involve women and women's organizations in its implementation? In such a context, such a world plan could economically advance all those who need it most and provide others, if they so wish, the opportunity to educate themselves and develop their capacity for goodwill and brotherhood. The world's people, and especially the children, are indeed waiting for a real implementation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And as a woman, I know I'm not alone with this vision.
Hazel Henderson, futurist and alternative economist. The new info currency is not scarce and only needs a plan like this for its orderly introduction. Anita Roddick, founder and chief executive of The Body Shop. The way forward is not always giving or spending more money, but using money effectively. Vimala Thakkar, spiritual leader. This new economic plan on the basis of participation by the rich and the poor alike is a stroke of genius.
People who say that this is a utopian plan and think that time will solve our problems are probably the greatest utopians of us all. It could be a new beginning of a world that goes a long way to meeting the United Nations Charter and the Statute of Human Rights. It's a matter of decency, don't you agree?
Pieter Kooistra. Everything in life is based on a balance of mutual interests. This balance ensures peace, peace within us and peace among us. The one is connected to the other. They unite our feelings and our thoughts, which allow us to rise above ourselves and to recognize the spirit of unity in ourselves and in each other. This is the meaning of our existence, the ideal self-interest of us all.